Test. Okay, good. We're good there.
Okay. Do you have the list of our...
Welcome back to Promise Monkey Presents Cypher Creator. I am back with Jen, and we may be joined with Rustin. He'll mysteriously appear below if that is the case. But we'll just see how that goes. With everyone with the storms coming in, who knows? Haven't heard anything, but we'll see. So, welcome back. This time we are going to have the session will be much more like what we intend to do week to week. Because now that we've created some characters and we've talked about some of the broader world building considerations early on, now we want to actually create elements for your game. And so the first we were going to talk about is character arcs. Why don't you fill people in on what those work, what purpose they serve?
So character arcs would be for the player characters to come up with something that they want to achieve personally along the way, that they want their character to achieve in the game. So this helps inform like a bit of a story, gives them a personal goal to achieve, and helps you as the GM know what kind of things your players want and help you pepper some of those things into your story. Does that seem reasonable?
Yes, I like to think that it's a player telling you what they want the story to be, which sounds like, it would be limiting, but as GMs well know, the more the players can tell you what they want, the better it will all be, because then they don't have to worry about,
invested.
They're invested, and it's one more thing you
don't have to think.
You don't have to create de novo for your campaign. So they're really good signaling.
Right. Well, also think of like Vox Machina and things like that, where, those character arcs achieve really great story moments as well. And having played in games that he's GM'd, one of the coolest character arc things I've ever seen was one of our friends in the Invisible Sun game paid off. Not only did she complete her character arc, but she paid it off in a very emotional, very moving moment that saved us, but was also like, oh, I've got to remember that. That was just, it was beautiful. So Eileen, that was special.
Yeah. The concept of character arcs mostly comes, from Invisible Sun, but then it was worked into Cypher system. And so they're bringing that forward and including that in the Cypher update. So we thought this would be a nice place to start, and maybe go through the process of creating such a feature for our games. Let's see. There we go. So a character arc is typically something where you'll have a goal. We'll talk about that, and you'll have completed your arc when you achieve that goal. You then get bonus XP. I think it's like 4 is a pretty good guess, depending on the size and scale of the arc.
Yeah.
Then you have some stages. And so you have like a starting stage. What does it mean to commit to this character arc? And that doesn't just mean in terms of the cost. Unless you're a starting character, it usually costs, I believe it's 1 XP to begin. But this is supposed to be an indication that you're actually starting on your quest,
right.
Whatever it may be.
You're investing in it so that you're going to pay it off as you move along.
Yeah, and then there's any number of stages beyond that. You might have, development,
which could go on for a while.
Yes, and we'll illustrate how that might work for a couple of stages. Mastery. Super mastery, or no, the next might be the goal that you've actually completed your goal. So with this basic format, you can do just about anything. They have a wide variety of examples in Cypher system as well as in the new material. But an example might be joining a guild. And what would be a good starting stage for joining a guild?
Well, you've got to know. What guilds are out there for the skill set that you're interested in?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want to be part of that guild? What kinds of things will that guild give you and do for you? And what would you need to do to make them want you?
Yeah, so like the first stage might be something like find the guild, which means it could mean in a sense of choosing between the options, or it could be where are they physically located, or how do I get to them? And it could be both.
Right.
So, and then in a development stage, you might have the tiers of membership in the guild: achieve tier 1, achieve tier 2, all the way to
like you create something, or you start working on your own song, or you do something that that increases your status to the people in the guild that would make them want you
until you actually achieve guild membership. And so you could decide how many stages there are, but that's the basic structure. And you could also do the same thing they had. You could build a structure or build something important, and then again you commit to the project by investing time and effort as well as the XP. Then you have series of development stages. Maybe it's we're going to lay the foundation, then we're going to build the infrastructure, and then the eventual goal might have been to you debut the structure that you've built.
And it may change what you want. Like, think of The Mummy, the movie The Mummy, when Evie wants to be part of the Bembridge Scholars. And so she knows about them, she's applied, she keeps doing things. And when the movie ends, she gets a letter from them and she's like, I don't want to be part of this anymore. I've done cooler stuff than you guys have. Yes,
it is possible with an arc to, in some sense, fail or to simply reject. Sorry, cat is attacking my feet. Reject the original goal.
Yep.
But in either case, you're advancing your character. You're telling an interesting story, and having letting that follow from the story itself, and then building it into the Cypher system, where this is the mechanism for XP.
Yeah.
Is a great way to just to closely connect these sorts of narrative. Narrative options along with the character points, things like that.
Well, and it's a 4 XP, so you could advance your character.
Yes,
even though you are spending, but
right. So if we move this, or no, not that, over here. If this is the goal, and we think of kind of moving down, you would spend 1 point to start. Then after you demonstrate your skill or something like that, and then demonstrate your mastery, after each of those, you might get an experience point. Mm-hmm. And then you get the big payoff when you actually complete the entire...
So it's enough to advance your character and maybe do more.
Yes. So for your character, what might be a useful character arc?
I've been thinking about this, right? So my character is gadgety. They're sciencey. They're an engineer. So what would be cool? And I would prefer to lean into that than trying to make a personal arc or right at the beginning. Mm-hmm. I want to develop that as I learn about the character. But so I was thinking if I am someone who makes gadgets, I have a gadget for that. Then I want to find a way to make a new type of gadget.
Okay, like a new category of gadget or something like that.
Something like that.
So the goal might be, we could say it broadly, like a new invention. Yeah. It's kind of what it would be in the very broadest sense.
Yeah.
But this has some...
different from the other inventions that I have.
Right, and even though that's the broad category for the character arc, mm-hmm. It already has more narrative specificity, because you're talking about a new category of gadget.
Yeah. Like maybe not just little gadgets, but maybe some chemistry or maybe some energy or something like that.
Yeah, something that hasn't existed before as a gadget type.
Right.
And that seems like a good goal. So then we would come to the stages. How with the starting character, you don't have to pay an actual experience point cost. But so we don't have to worry about the XP cost usually.
Right.
But the starting stage, what would that look like?
So maybe I run into something that I'm like, oh, I don't have a type of gadget for this. Or wouldn't it be cool if I had something that does this thing that my gadgets don't do? And
so identify the problem?
Identify the problem that I need a solution for.
The problem or gap, like something you don't have anything that can solve this issue.
Right. And it doesn't have to be something extreme. It could be like, hey, this is annoying.
Right. And so what would be the next, like the development stage after you've like, oh, I need to invent this. I need to find a solution to this problem.
So along the way, you would probably need to do research, but also running into the other factions, the other people involved, going to other recursions. Maybe you see stuff that you hadn't thought of before, and you can incorporate that.
Right. So again, in a general sense, we might call this the research stage.
Right.
But what research looks like
can be very
Yeah, and it can be part of an actual adventure. Like, oh well, this is. You might read this and say, oh well, now we have to figure out what I know. Now I know what the MacGuffin is. I may have been planning some sort of MacGuffin-y plot, but I didn't. I needed a hook to make that MacGuffin more interesting.
Yeah.
Oh well, now it is it would solve the research problem in one of the character's character arcs. Now you have a compelling. It's not even really a MacGuffin anymore because it is now an object that's tied into the characters themselves.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. After research, let's see.
Mastery or more development.
Well, I mean, I'm just using it. It can be any number of developments.
Maybe I find new tools or new components that I haven't been able to use before.
Oh, I like that. And again, after you do each of these, you'd be getting an XP.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, this will make stuff that I didn't think of using stuff like this.
Excellent. And maybe one more before the goal, you think?
Another phase in development. So, as a good scientist, there's always a setback.
Okay.
So that moment,
survive the setback.
That moment where the setback is very upsetting. Like, I thought I had it, but it didn't work. Or, oh, that blew up in my face. Or that component is way more unstable than I thought it was.
Or it could even be an internal setback, like confidence. Again, narratively, this would make sense if you're writing a story along these lines.
Oh, I'm not good enough to put these together.
But it's surviving that setback, and that positions you. Okay, now that you have the plan from the research, the new components, and you survived that first failure or whatever it is. Now you can jump to the next stage would be the goal of this new invention.
Right. Excellent.
Great. So that'll be better.
So what about you?
Oh, I have not made as much progress on what a goal character arc might be. I think it would be something about proving myself to my teammates.
That would make sense
especially both having such, being very different. And I would be feeling is just sort of almost a more mundane focus, that it's that I am terrestrial and I am limited in ways to the old approaches that are being completely superseded by this new technology. So goal, I think, can improve my team. Starting. Get noticed.
Yeah.
Do something that is like,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Let's see, for development. After getting noticed, it'd be like defining my role. And this will be a little more difficult to translate into like, oh, well, this is what the adventure MacGuffin is tonight. But for a GM, this is still really useful signaling about what I want to happen.
Right. What do you want your role in the team to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's, what do I want it to be? And then it's prove my worth. But let's do another set. I like that setback idea. What would be a good setback?
Well, maybe one of us does something that you think you need to do, or maybe you realize that your role that what you thought was your role is not, you don't have all the things in place yet, but you can get there.
Like accept limitations?
Yeah, accept limitations. That's a good one.
And then after you accept limitations and you have the rest of this, then it can move to the final stage of proving myself to the team in a direct, visible sort of way. And this just would feed information to the GM, like, oh, this is the sort of thing I want to do. And notice if you have different types of these character arcs going, where the previous research one's a little more concrete. Well, the ones that for my character can be woven in other places simultaneously. So we might be searching out new components, and that's where But at that point, I'm at the stage of needing to define my role, and then working with a scene where I need to really play into my strengths, or a GM allowing me to play into my strengths while searching for the new component. You can start to see multiple character arcs can be advanced in any given time.
Mm-hmm. And maybe not everybody's in the same session, but maybe multiple people in the same session.
Right. It's also possible, and this goes from Invisible Sun, but hasn't been carried forward as much. There's a variation on this called the desideratum. It is a statement of what the goals are. You could kind of use that almost as a group character arc. If you want something to tie characters together rather than having to try to weave them together, you might all share one character arc, and then each person has their own character arc.
Actually, Blades in the Dark does a good job of that.
Oh, yes, it does.
Yeah.
Do you have an example?
Well, I mean, since you're trying to build where you are, your layout, you're trying to survive and get your heist, and it's a dark, dark world if you've ever played Blades in the Dark, but I think it does a really good job of having group arcs because you have to build stuff together. So, like, you've got to build your reputation, and you got to hide out from the heat, and you got to deal with your vices.
And the vices are more independent, but some of the others...
but they can derail.
They absolutely can have consequences for the entire group. Yeah, that's a great recommendation, and it's a very different system mechanically than Cypher, but it's motivated by a lot of the same ideas on how to move towards improvisational play. Because it's supposed to be zero prep. Another
example is Vaesen, where you have the what's the name of it? The name of my brain went blank. I can see the place in Sweden. You have.
Oh, the castle?
The castle, and I can see it in my mind, and I cannot remember. There's a name for the society.
Oh, okay.
And so,
I don't remember.
So you build you build into it. You discover different parts of it, and as your characters advance and you go through your stories, you're also getting new things in your hideout and your place where you can do more research and things like that. Now that's a group arc, not an individual arc, but it's not like Blades in the Dark where it feels more storyish. That feels more like perks.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it is also similar to what I want to talk about. We talked about for the second half today, which is creating a threat, or what's often called in apocalypse world speak, a front. And because when we did our session 0 for the campaign, we identified several factions, and using this idea of a threat or front, it will help us kind of develop one of those factions a little bit in ways that I think will be useful for people to see built. So again, we'll call these front or faction. Was there one in particular you want to send, or I could even look over at the list if we had the librarians. We had kind of a military, competing team force, and I think a corporate.
Yeah. I think the military competing thing would be better later on.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe a corporate.
Okay. So we'll work with the corporate spies seeking information for the strange. The second part, the seeking information, is what in this approach is called a impulse. What is it that motivates this particular faction or front? In this case, it is wanting to be
shareholders,
wanting to be able to utilize the strange
for fun and profit,
for stockholder profit. That impulse is just, again, the motivation, kind of the direction that the faction goes. This approach then asks you to imagine if it was completely unimpeded, if the characters don't do anything at all and the world just moves and develops over time, what would the nightmare conclusion of this look like?
Rebellion recursions that are kind of destroyed and looted, and that they don't want to deal with people anymore.
Yeah, this is called the impending doom. So we have mass looting of recursions, destruction of recursions.
Yeah, destruction and ill will.
Which I also like to think is a guy named Will who is sick, and then try to figure out how to make that as part of the story.
Well, we need that concursion for us, and so
yeah, then you get in this very territorial and ultimately destructive world, because nothing's being maintained; it's all being consumed and then and thrown away, and so that's a fun kind of.
Yeah. I wouldn't think that a corporate who's basically looting for profit would care about maintaining any kind of balance. I mean, I don't know why I would think that.
So, and then we connect all of this through what are called grim portents. These are stages of how the advancement of this front or faction will be noticeable in our world. So how does the world change to reflect the advancement of the faction? And each of these stages is then a grim portent. So let's see, grim portents. Let's call it first. What might the first stage of the corporate spies?
So is this a grim portent in the recursion or in our world?
It could be anywhere. It's just so that the player characters see the world changing, and that there's something that can connect, like it's changing for a reason.
Well, we had said that the recursions are kind of shaped by the way people think. So maybe we see more people thinking of, oh, well, I could just take that.
So there would be localized outbreaks of just theft. And it's still, and actually this is really, if you were creating a campaign, it's like, oh, well, this makes the first several adventures fairly easy to define at a low level and low stakes, so you don't have to worry about your characters getting killed off. You have, that would actually be fun to run like 3 consecutive adventures, let's say, in different recursions. Like one is in Oz and like very disparate areas, but they're all about a localized outbreak of theft. And then you start piecing together, oh, this is happening all over the place. For a second stage, I want to get something that looks at the commercialization side, or the commodification side.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want to go all the way to like slavery.
But branded recursions?
Oh, yeah. Branding. That's great. I love that. Branding begins to appear. You could either make your own fun fake
Wayland Yutani, sort of, yeah.
Oh, and yeah, you could tie it to brands, like other IP of brands, because that's written into the very nature of the strange.
Right.
So again, and you can imagine if you're playing out a campaign, you've started with some localized thefts and things like that. Then you can move to some other plot, but in the background, as you're pursuing the other plot, the branding starts to pop up places. It now gives you something more to describe everywhere you go. And
why do I keep seeing properties from this company in this place?
Yes, or like let's say you're in Arden, and like this fantasy kind of Babylonian world, and they turn a corner and there's like a neon sign for sort of like biscuits,
Nuka-Cola.
Yeah. Whatever, maybe. Well, I think that might be a third stage. Is what? Well,
I think it would start with things like corporate brands on axes and things like that, which is like that symbol doesn't belong here, and then it would build into Nuka-Cola sorts of levels.
Yeah, like what's the word where it's kind of out of place or out of time? I mean, out of time. It's
anachronism.
Anachronism, and so the next stage is when you get strongly anachronistic, branding. And then you start seeing Nuka-Cola in Arden.
Right.
And you start to see like straight up 50s McDonald's in Rook. And so you're like, oh, things are really breaking down. These brandings are starting to contaminate and spread through the system. You can start seeing, and the world starts to reflect the strength of this building thread or front. And then you could add a stage that's not usually part of the system, but I like to just envision to make sure that this is all coherent. What would the culmination of this be? What would be the big capstone adventure where the characters would go to prevent the impending doom after they've seen the world degrade as they have through the 3 stages of the Grim Portents? What would just be a fun location for a big showdown? Oh, maybe something like you could adapt Mojo from the X-Men. I mean, an almost literal adaptation of Mojo. I don't even know how to describe Mojo, but Google Mojo X-Men.
He's in some of X-Men 97, right?
Is in the cartoon for in 97, yes.
So you don't have to go straight to the comics.
Yes, but the whole point is that Mojo is a multimedia mogul for the multiverse and has been basically recording the X-Men and their
exploits.
And their exploits, and they've become the most popular program, but he's worried about having, that they won't be able to continue to provide that much media, or they need to find ways to produce more and more and more episodes to meet this demand. So it's, it obviously represents this, media empires and all of that. But it is a villain. So, but in this case, like where that confrontation can be, the characters may have to go into what's then something like a Mojo world.
Yeah.
Exaggerations and things are all very
fight weirdness for the corporation.
Yes. And like the aesthetic would be things that were incredibly advanced technology, but somehow still looked janky. Like it was made for TV. And so like, just envision that. It's like, okay, now I can, even if the campaign goes in a very different direction, I have many ideas of things of what I can put at various stages of the campaign. And now I kind of want some of that Mojo stuff to start earlier. And use that as an inspiration for minions from Mojo.
Well, it can kind of show up with the branding and theft and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
minions of Mojo.
Mojo, yeah. Any other ideas?
I'm not sure what else I would want to do here.
Well,
but I also don't think this should be something that ends quickly.
Yeah. Well, just what's your reaction to having? I think we've kind of completed the process. Would you find this inspirational as a?
Yeah. And with the Grim Portents, you could do this by yourself as a GM or with your characters.
Yeah.
Because you're not giving a lot away. Mm-hmm. But you can establish tone. Like Scott went for Mojo, and meanwhile, I'm thinking Cyberdyne Systems. So these are very different worlds. And so that helps set the tone of what kind of thing you're doing as well.
Yes. Or Max Headroom.
Max Headroom.
Would also be,
that would be good.
But again, and a lot of this, there's no right answer here. There's no, and there's no wrong answer. What's important is what it helps your brain do. And so these like lists and these categories, this strange language, and I probably got some of it wrong, but the words, the names don't matter. It's asking a series of implied questions. So for the character arc, it's how do you start? How do you get better? How do you know you're done? Or something like that. With factions, it's what do they care about? How do they change the world? And what's the end game? Yeah. And just asking those questions helps spin out so many different ideas.
Right. And this doesn't have to be the whole of the campaign, right?
No, this is just one faction. We created 4 or 5 factions.
Yeah.
So,
I think we have 6.
Maybe it's 6. Yeah. So imagine having 6 of these side by side. If you're the
Interwoven.
GM, yeah, you can go in and say, okay, let's look at the character arcs for our PCs, and then based on the character arcs, let me pull. If we can resolve some set of character arcs by going to this location tied to this faction, and then you can start seeing how this all weaves together.
Maybe that other military group is looking at outbreaks of theft, figuring out why is this happening in random places.
Right.
And then you start running into them and learn about them as you're going through this, or any of these things can happen.
Or this is even sequential. There's theft from that other military organization, and that leads to a conflict that your characters can mediate.
Oh, yeah.
And that might get to some of the questions from Cypher Unlimited earlier this evening about how do you have satisfying sessions with no combat?
And you, my friend diplomat, might actually be able to define a role with that.
Okay, when we get a scary amount of synchronicity, I think it's time to go ahead and call it. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed kind of this building exercise. We're still kind of getting started, so we weren't able to get the actual play together, but we'll end with a 10-minute or so actual play illustrating what we build.
How we're using these things.
But we're still kind of getting up to speed with that. But I hope you saw in this episode something closer to what we hoped to do in every episode. Show you how to build things for your game and adapt from other sources so that you can make your campaign and with the big U of your entire table. Well, very good. Happy gaming to everyone. And we'll see you again next week.